What's going on, gun family? Urban Gun Reviews, and today on the show we have Dale Brown of Detroit Threat Management Center. Appreciate you for coming on and doing the interview.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
And
no
also, I'm
problem.
here on behalf of our school, Detroit Urban Survival Training.
Okay, that's great, great. Um, like I ask everybody, I start off asking the question of where are you from, and I'm assuming Detroit, but I just don't want to
No,
assume so.
no, actually, I'm from a suburb outside Detroit
Okay,
called Ann Arbor, Michigan, which
okay,
is where the University of Michigan is located.
all right, great. Um, were you were born in you say born in Ann Arbor or
Yes, Ann Arbor is a suburb of Detroit, approximately 30 minutes outside Detroit.
okay? What was it like growing up out there?
Um, Detroit is a place where I have cousins, and in where I'm from, in Ann Arbor, is a college town
Mm-hmm.
that is essentially scared of everyone from Detroit. Uh, Even our cousins scare us. So we only go to Detroit to visit our cousins and then get back out before dark. If it stay there, we're very scared because we hear ambulances and fire trucks and police cars all night. And if you're from the suburbs, you're not used to that.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a suburban area outside Detroit, listening to news stories every night
Mm-hmm.
of horrible shootouts and terrible things happening to families in Detroit every single night, my entire life, except when I lived overseas. I lived in Germany in high school because my mother was a captain in the army.
Okay.
She was a physician in the army, so I spent some time overseas, the military bases over there,
Mm-hmm.
Germany.
Okay, that's dope. Can you tell me what Detroit Threat Management Center means?
Detroit Threat Management Center essentially is an organization that is primarily a school. So first and foremost, we teach. I created a survival system. I created a school, a training system that blends together fighting on the ground, fighting standing up, fighting multiple aggressors, fighting with a knife, a baton, a pistol, a shotgun, a rifle, and doing so legally. So
Mm-hmm.
my training system teaches students how to legally understand how the legal system is going to view their story, how to make sure that they're legally compliant. So they're not using weapons illegally.
Okay.
So they're not using hand to hand illegally. So they know when they can and when they cannot legally defend themselves. And then
Okay.
how to legally explain that to police officers when they get to the scene. So essentially, I created a school, first and foremost, for survival for urban situations where you're in situations where you have to defend yourself or your family, or your community members, your business, and you want to do so legally.
Mm-hmm.
So I created the first school that you go to that teaches you how to legally defend yourself. I was a private investigator when I got out of the military. I was an airborne paratrooper, and I thought after being a martial artist my whole life since I was a kid and learning how to shoot firearms when I was 7 years old, 6 years old, when I started going to the gun range with my mother,
Okay.
who was on a firearm. She was a firearms instructor in the National Guard at the time before she went regular Army.
Okay.
And so we used to go shooting the M16A1
Nice
in,
gun.
in the 70s. So I'm 52 now, but I was, in the early 70s, mid 70s, I was actually, at the gun range shooting M16A1s that just got back from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Jam and Jennies, what they used to call them. And then I went
Okay.
to a lot of firearm. I went to firearm schools, but I also went to a lot of martial arts schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason I created threat management centers is because I thought people everywhere, I don't care where you live, in the country, in the suburbs, or in the city, you should have training that teaches you how to legally defend yourself. And I went through all these martial arts schools, all these firearm schools. I was a firearms instructor for the NRA for five disciplines for 20 years.
Okay.
And I never had anyone, even in the law enforcement instructors I had, there were tactical instructors. These the training did not center on the use of force legally for civilians.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it like that. How to articulate legally your use of force for civilians is completely left out of all firearms training, knife, baton, as well as ground training and multiple aggressor training. I never had anyone even approach even my police instructors never approached the concept of how to teach the legal use of force.
Okay.
So I created a school for that. And then I found out, being in Detroit, that the people needed more than just training.
Mm-hmm.
So at first I had no money. I was teaching in the parks. I was teaching self-defense, survival tactics in the park. And a girl was chased off the bridge in Detroit in front of a crowd of people.
Mm-hmm.
And what made me want to teach in Detroit was this one situation specifically that made me believe that what's most important is not money. It is that we need to train people to protect themselves and their community.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't care about getting paid. What I care about is getting people that are at risk for predation and making sure they know how to defeat violent criminals. Because this girl was chased off a bridge in front of a crowd of people.
Mm-hmm.
She was in front of her daughter. Men came out of a vehicle, used a crowbar, took her out of her car because she was caught in traffic, and then stripped her clothes off in front of a crowd of people that were cheering on the bridge called Belle Isle Bridge in Detroit. And then they chased her with this crowbar and gave her a choice to either, basically be sexually assaulted in public, or she would have to jump off the bridge. She jumped off the bridge and she died. In front of a crowd of people.
Yeah.
In front of her daughter.
Wow.
And I thought, if one person on that bridge would have been trained by me, by my system, if they would have known what I knew, then that lady's life could have been saved.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Absolutely.
As far as shooting with a firearm, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, if you shoot someone with a firearm, you can also be stabbed, hit with a crowbar, and shot back.
Yeah.
Well, people don't know that. A lot of people, I learned it the hard way. Ballistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the solution for managing threat is having skills to manage that threat.
Okay.
And that is not to be dependent on anything, not to be dependent on guns, knives, police, or anything. You have to be self-reliant, and you have to have solutions. And that's what I did, was create a school. So each person, man, woman, and child, has the solutions within them to solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
Then I found out that I was in the east side of Detroit, and I found out there was home invasions and murders in close proximity to where I lived on the east side. And I had no idea that there needed to be protection. I thought that all you had to do was call police. The police would then show up. The police would then process the scene, would then somehow protect the people from predation. I really believe that.
Yeah. And
so I was telling people, and I still do, you got to call police for everything, right? But I really believed that if you, gathered the evidence, if you had the witnesses, if you had this and you had all the things you needed, that you could protect your community and yourself from violent criminals. Mm-hmm. All you need to do was, legally understand how to talk to police and how to articulate the threat to them so they could prosecute the person that is preying upon your family. And that's because I'm from the suburbs. I did not know that that's not true.
Yeah.
So what is true is this. Each one of us has to become our own bodyguard. And that's why we emphasize that here. At our school, we train people to become their own bodyguard. I created an organization called v.i.p.e.r.s. v.i.p.e.r.s stands for Violence, Intervention, Protective Emergency Response System. So I created a system from guys and females from the streets of Detroit. And what I did was I got permission from the building owners in apartment buildings to give them free apartments in exchange for them protecting their building 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Then I didn't have any money, I didn't have any jobs, so I just told them, look, if you protect your building, I get you a free apartment, and then what I'll do is I'll train you in survival tactics for free, and if there's ever a situation, we'll respond together as a team. Mm-hmm. So I had 10 buildings, multiple different building owners, they all agreed to it, because they had one murder every month in the buildings, in this one square block, and they had daily home invasions. And as we called the police, which a lot of people there just didn't call the police, they called cousins. They called cousins, or they just tried to hide from violent criminals. Yeah. So it's about 400 dwellings, and out of about 400 dwellings, there was maybe 50% occupancy, so about 200 families, and then there was about 20 gangsters, what we call thug animals. 20, 30 guys that would hunt these families, they would harm them, they would terrorize them. So hundreds of families are actually being terrorized by urban terrorists, and that's really what they're doing. They didn't, someone was selling dope, but that wasn't that was not their main purpose. They sell dope to fund the operation, which is terrorism of the families. There were drug dealers there, but I don't know if they were, I didn't know them because I didn't care about drug dealers and their behaviors. What I cared about was the safety of the families. Mm-hmm. If you are not harassing the families, if you're not home invading them, if you're not trying to murder them, if you're not raping the women, if you're not harming the children, then we have no problem.
Yeah.
And so,
drug dealers are doing drugs. They're not really trying to run in your house most times. So,
right. The drug dealers didn't give us any problems. It was the thug dealers. The thug dealers. That's different. Those thug dealers were dealing dope just enough to have bullets, just enough to manipulate women, and abuse people. They weren't actually business people. They weren't trying to do business with a customer. They were literally harming people for the purpose of harm, and then dealing drugs to fund their operation.
Yeah.
But most importantly, they were terrorizing families. And what I did was made it my personal mission that I would use my skills, my training system that I created to protect the families. And then when I saw that there was no other protection, I thought of myself as a liaison. I thought I would just be helping the community, call the police, help the families get there, talk to the police, help them coordinate. I did not know I had to create a separate organization that would actually protect families. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do to be effective. And I also had to realize that I'm going to possibly be murdered. And there's no way to expect to live when I'm outnumbered, outgunned, and there's no help coming.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I decided that it was better to die protecting these families than it was to live as a coward, allowing them to be harmed so that I could make money going to do something else in my life. So I just gave up my future, and I believed that I was going to die. And so every day when I went out, to protect the families, which is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when they called me, I believed I was going to die that day, every day. And so I lived that way. I lived that, I'm here to die killing these violent criminals today. When at first I tried to get, I tried to use the police system, and I found out that it was interested more in the prosecution aspect of public safety. So they would rather come after the rape, robbery, or murder, home invasion takes place, then arrest the people if they can find them, and then take people to jail or possibly prison for those rapes, robberies, and murders if possible. Okay. And my point was, I don't really care about them getting prosecuted. I care about not allowing the families to be raped, robbed, and murdered. Yeah. Those are two separate subjects, and I did not know that from watching TV and growing up in the suburbs. Yeah. I did not know that prosecution and protection are not related. If you protect, if you prosecute someone, you know what that means? That means you fail to protect them.
Yeah. Sure.
That's what that means. I mean, you can't prosecute them if they didn't do something, right? Supposedly, you're not supposed to be. But here's the point: if you're in the private sector and you're focusing on prosecuting people, if you're thinking that you're going to go out and arrest people and prosecute them for the purpose of prosecution, number one, that means you failed. That means you didn't prevent the violence. You didn't prevent the rape, robbery, and murder. What good is you being paid or being even trusted, which is more important than money? Why would any family, why would any community believe in you if you're going to let them be raped, robbed, and murdered? Yeah. And then try to get credit later for that when
putting them in,
that doesn't help, right?
Absolutely.
And so what I did was I learned that. And then what I also learned that I took people from the streets of Detroit. I took regular guys. Some of those guys back then, this was their first legal job in their life. They never even knew anyone with a legal job. Yeah. They had to get a haircut, shave. They had to have discipline. We trained every day, all day. So you start, the minimum training would be 6 p.m. to 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And that's because nightclubs started hiring us once they found out that we were stopping gangs in the neighborhoods in Detroit that were home invading and murdering people. So one successful thing, which was keeping the families alive, even though I wasn't making any money, the building owners made money. Yeah. And once the building owners made money, I made them pay me. Okay. So once their occupancy went from 50% or 30% to 90% occupancy, because once you don't have rape, robbery, murder in an urban community, in the urban community, they'll say, well, these places can't be rented because the drug dealers, the thugs, the violence, the crime. Yeah, because you're letting it happen. They're at risk for predation. So all we do is deny the opportunity for violence to occur. The families live safe. The regular working class and poor families live safe. As a result, the rich people got richer. As a result, I made the rich people pay me. Okay. And the rich people keep paying because they like being richer. Yep. What I do is create no lawsuits, no deaths, and a prosperous situation for them by protecting the poor and regular working class people. Okay. But it's in that order. Yeah. You can't put money first. The mission always comes first. And that's what I learned. And then I also learned this, that the violent criminals that I call thug animals, these are very dangerous people. They will kill you for nothing. I did not know that. I thought you had to do something, for someone to kill you. Yeah. It's not true. They just literally will kill you for nothing. Absolutely. But the truth is, psychologically, it is for something. The something is pain and suffering. These young men, these young women are people that were suffered as children. And now they're transferring it I call it pain sharing. They're sharing the pain with other people. So you can give them the car when they ask you, when they put a gun to your head, say, give me the car. And they're going to shoot you anyway.
Yeah.
You can say, they can say, give me your wallet. You give them the wallet. They're going to shoot you anyway. They actually drop the wallet. They'll forget because they really didn't care about the wallet. They didn't care about the car. It wasn't economics.
It's just about the
Poor
power.
people don't steal. Poor people don't rob people. Okay. That's a fantasy that we got to get rid of. It's not, there's no correlation between poor people and crime. Absolutely not. Zero. So remember, Bernie Madoff stole more money than all the poor people in the history of America combined.
Yeah.
And he had multiple college degrees.
True.
Okay. They have entire prison systems for people that went to college and are still stealing. There's a prison for military personnel called Fort Leavenworth. This prison is full of people that were in the military at the time of their arrest. You know what that means? 100% employment.
Yeah.
So there's no correlation between poor people not having a job and going to do crime. That is not real. That's a fantasy from TV. Okay? Martha Stewart knew what she was doing, and she's rich. Okay? So this idea, there's lots of poor people all over the place. They're not stealing nothing. They go to church, they go to work, they go to school, and they're poor, and they do not steal. They won't take a dollar from you. And there's a bunch of rich people that will steal every dollar you have. They're already rich, but they're going to get you to sign a contract and steal your money. Only because they went to college and got shown how to do that legally on a contract. It doesn't make it moral, though. My point in saying that is this. The core of what my organization's for is for community service. We protect people. We protect communities and corporations. The reason why we're financially successful is because we make rich people richer as a result of our actions. But all of it comes back to our school. Without the training system, I have nothing. Without my system of understanding psychology, law, and skill. If we don't understand that, there's no way we're going to be an asset to anyone. Without understanding psychology, you don't understand how to create a non-adversarial interaction. You don't know how to talk to people. You don't know how to stand. You don't know how they're going to interpret you. So you don't know how to keep them from escalating. So there's no way for you to de-escalate them because you don't understand proxemics. So if you don't understand how people perceive your distance and how they perceive your eye position, your head position, how they interpret you determines whether they think you're a threat or not, which determines how they respond to you or not. So you could just be going over to ask directions. They think you're a threat. They pull their gun, and now you both are having a shootout over nothing.
Yeah.
This happens literally every day. That's why they call it senseless violence, also because they don't really want to ask why did Ray, Pookie, and Earl have a shootout? Well, it turns out Earl was defending himself from Ray, and Pookie. It's called self-defense. But you didn't ask that. You just put on the news and said, look at this shootout at the gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that somebody was being shot at the gas station and the other person being shot? That person was defending themselves and they shot back. And this shouldn't be called senseless because it's urban. You should expect urban people will not let themselves be shot, just like suburban people, just like country people. They will not just let you shoot them. They will shoot you back. You should expect that. You shouldn't call it senseless violence. There's no such thing as gun violence. That's not true. There's a victim and there's a perpetrator. And then there's the media who doesn't care when it's an urban issue. And most school shootings happen where? You don't know because they're never going to tell you because you don't care about Oshkosh, Bagosh, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. Do you know that people live in Montana? Do you know that? People live there. Now tell me one story you heard on the news about Montana. Go. You don't know nothing about Montana.
Yeah.
Right? Because it doesn't have a big city. What you do know about is everything dealing with big cities. And I actually asked some CNN producers why that is. They said because honestly, people, the big cities is where the news stations are.
Yeah, nobody cares about Montana.
And nobody cares about people that live outside of those areas. So, it's imperative for us to realize that we're all experiencing some propaganda from watching TV, watching movies, all that propaganda, all that Karate Kid, all the Dirty Harry movies, Charles Bronson, Walking Tall, all those movies I loved, all completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
They will get you locked up, destroy your life, and you didn't even shoot the gun yet. Just had the gun and was having a conversation and got yourself locked up. So we teach how to legally defend yourself, but we have boots on the ground. So now after battling gangs, being in force-on-force conflict, being in a lot of shootouts, a lot of force-on-force conflicts over the past 26 years, we teach from what we found worked. And a lot of techniques I got from traditional martial arts did not work. A lot of the tactics did not work. A lot of the ideas don't work because the teachers are not the people that did it.
Mm-hmm.
If your instructor did not do it, then they cannot properly teach you how to manage this thing, whatever it is. If I'm not a rapper, I can't really teach you how to be a rapper. If I'm not a football player, I can't really teach you how to be a football player.
Yeah.
If I'm not a mechanic that has a good working car, you shouldn't have me do work on your car.
Right.
Even if I know everything about mechanics, if I don't have a good working car, if I don't know how to do what it is I'm training you to do, then I shouldn't be teaching you.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach survival tactics because I survived, and we've had over I've had over 3,500 team members in the past 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
So probably over 100 of them were police officers that worked for me. And what I can tell you is you learn a lot when you're responsible for the behavior of others.
Mm-hmm.
So civil and criminal liability comes back to me. If my men do something wrong, my team members, males and females, if they violate someone's rights, I would be in trouble. If they harm someone inappropriately, I'd be in trouble, not just them. And no matter what city they were working in, and whatever country. So what I learned was how to train people to perform properly without violating people's rights, without violating the law, without violating laws, and without doing things that you can do legally, which still get you sued and have all your money taken.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know that if you're in a shootout or a fist fight, doesn't matter, and you win, you were legally correct, you still can lose all of your money.
Yeah.
Every dollar gone. But you were criminally correct. So you're not a criminal, you just lost all your money.
Mm-hmm.
What was the point of winning if you're going to lose all your money?
Yeah.
If you would have known that on onset, that you could lose all of your money, you would not have done that thing you did. I promise you, you would have thought something else.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have went up to the guy and said, look, can I just give you $100? Can I give you $500, please? Let me give you a G. Let me give you $1,000 for us to let this road rage go right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you know what he said? You would have given me $1,000? Yes. And you guys would be best friends.
Yeah.
But instead, you get into a shootout and road rage, and guess what? You can lose all of your money, even when you legally shot the guy. So that's something to think about while we teach how to create peace. So now what I've learned after 26 years, 6 of us have been shot. None of our team members died. The reason why our team members did not die is it's not magic. Is because if you study ballistics and then you have training, you understand that what kills you is hypovolemic shock, meaning loss of blood.
Mm-hmm.
You don't die from getting shot. 9 times out of 10, the people that are dying just because they lost too much blood.
Yeah.
And so some people have catastrophic wounds or extreme wound cavity, what they call long-term wound cavities. Those are rare. You have to have over 2,000 feet per second to produce that, and a frangible or expanding round 9 times out of 10. So as a result, you get a situation where 9 out of 10 people are not dead after getting shot, except in your mind from watching TV shows.
Yeah.
So I did not know this. I thought if you got shot, and this is after being growing up on shooting every kind of firearm. I was on a combat pistol team in West Germany in high school. I was on a combat tactical training team in junior high in a military school, being trained by Vietnam veterans on how to torture Vietnamese people in Virginia at 9th grade. Don't ask me why I need to know that. But how to set up claymore mines, how to do all these things that you're not supposed to know as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, what I didn't learn was ballistics. I did not learn that when you get shot, you won't die 9 times out of 10. I thought if you got shot, pretty much that's,
So,
it's over, especially center mass, right?
Yeah.
It's just not true. So what I found was, being with our team members, we stabilized our wounded, transport to level 1 trauma hospitals, and do wound care training. That's part of our training. So here you learn how to survive, and that's what we learned from real life application. How do you read the body language of a predator before they have a chance to shoot you? How do you know they're going to pull a gun? How do you de-escalate them if you believe they are going to pull a gun? How do you create a condition where they don't feel the need or the opportunity to pull the gun to actually attack you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we learned by being in those situations where people tried to kill us.
Yeah.
So without that, I would not know. So I have to thank Detroit and all the thug animals I came across, all the gangs, because without them, I couldn't know what I know now. There's no way to have known these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the accountability and responsibility that made me want to learn it, because at the end of the day, I can't make excuses for failure. The next time something happens, we got to do better.
Yeah.
That's what we did every day. So what you're looking at is a training system that is not gun dependent, but is not against guns. At the same time, has real life experience in dealing with force on force conflict, both armed and unarmed. And so now what we do is we teach that although guns are not needed for your actual self-preservation 9 times out of 10, there are something you should have access to. It's just not something you need to be dependent on. What you need to be dependent on is your thought process and your training that gives you a higher level of understanding of human threat potential and capability, so that you can be ahead of violent criminal behavior and then know what to do about it. So understanding biomechanics, understanding biopsychology, right? The way in which the body and mind work, right? Under stress and duress, very important. And then understanding, the actual understanding of reaction time related to those subjects. Very important, vital.
Yeah. To be a team member, what's the process if somebody wanted to join your organization, be a team member?
Well, we have two different things now. So now we have community-oriented organization that's separate from the security side. So now we have a security basically a security wing, that's a security guard company that we provide professional guards for, and that's that company is hired by communities and corporations as a job. So we have people who work full time. Their average salary is $60,000 a year to $100, somewhere in there. And these people are professional, trained. We train weekly. We test weekly, and then we have volunteers that do volunteer things. So the volunteer people are people that have a job doing something else. They have a career, but they love the training and they love actually helping people. Okay. So we have two different functions here, two different types of organizations. So one is community service and one is protective service that's actually paid. Two different organizations within one. But first and foremost, we are a school. So this is an actual training center that teaches urban survival training to women, children, elderly, and police officers, so that families can be safe, and police officers as well. So we have a police training program that's specific just for police, that teaches how to subjugate people safely and gives police officers advanced skills so they're always ahead of violent criminal behaviors. So they're not responding to the escalation of the criminal, but instead giving direction and keeping a positive line of communication, building a trust bond with a person that they're subjugating, so they don't have a violent response from a person, so they can also create a non-violent outcome. Even if they have to arrest someone, you can do that without injuring them, without killing them. So we show police officers specifically methods of dominating threat without creating injuries and deaths.
Okay. Is your police training, is that like specific to like urban areas as well, or is it just general?
Yeah, well, it's everywhere. So, because whether you're subjugating someone in country towns or in an urban community, it doesn't matter. You still need to know how to do that without injuring and killing them. Okay. So specifically, we show people how not to kill people. And that's what our training system is for civilians too. Instead of teaching people how to legally justify the use of force and how to illegally kill people, how to legally use their weapons to kill people, what we teach is how not to. Specifically, how do you, although we could transition to the use of fatal force, lethal force, intermediary force, why do we have to do that if we could create a different outcome? And then I explain why you want to create a different outcome, and then people usually get it. And that's where, we're successful at helping people have a good quality of life. So imagine if you don't make that decision that destroys your life because you use force and violence in a way that altered your life, even though it's legal. So people, they think, well, if I legally did this, I'll be okay. You can legally do it, you still mess your life up.
Yeah, I seen that you mentioned like an anti-kill philosophy. I was watching some of your videos, and I seen that you mentioned that, and you're real heavy on that. Why do you think that you're so heavy on anti-kill?
Because that's what everyone needs. So the problem right now is a lot of the killing is people killing people by accident. Yeah, quite simply. You just weren't thinking. Your thought process was negative in the first place. Most people are thinking negative thoughts. Yeah. Two negative people are going to create a negative outcome for sure.
Negative action, exactly.
Right? So what happens is you're taking situations, and this is what makes it really difficult to figure out why violence is occurring, whether it's police or civilian. It's because there was a negative thought process at the beginning. So when you're carrying a weapon, it's especially important to have discernment training. Discernment is your ability to discern whether something is a negative or positive. Now, if you only think it's a negative, then clearly it's a negative. That means you're only going to have a negative response.
Exactly.
But let's be honest. How many times have you saw a fire or house fire or car on fire? You did. You've seen that before. How many times have you seen gunfire? Very, very few people have seen actual gunfire, including police officers. Actual gunfire, like someone shooting at them or someone else. It's very, very rare. But nobody wants to run around with a fire extinguisher on their head. Yeah. Nobody. People who've seen 10 fires don't make sure they have a fire extinguisher with a laser beam on their side, chrome, with a good holster, so they can shoot fires out real quick. No one's trying to do that. So when
True.
we carry a gun, it's not for safety. It's for ego. It's for self-validation. And it's for like people that like think that muscles are going to help them. Like bodybuilders like that. There's people that lift weights that they can fight. Have you ever seen a champion fighter that's a bodybuilder? No.
No.
It's extremely rare. Have you ever seen a champion fighter that becomes a bodybuilder? No, that's extremely rare. Fighting and weightlifting are two separate things, except in one of my favorite movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan. Conan, that was awesome. I do like Conan. That's just not real. Let's be clear. And in real life, if you're shooting really, really fast at gun range, black targets, then you're training to shoot black targets in real life that are not threatening. Let's be clear. If you want to shoot targets that are threatening, you should be looking at a threatening picture. You're subconsciously programming your brain to shoot something. What it should be programmed to shoot is only something that's actually threatening. Otherwise, you're making a decision to shoot based on your own decision, not based on the threat.
Yeah.
That's building a very bad neurological response with a firearm and a decision making of the shooter. Now, that means you're prone to shoot someone who has no gun because you're used to shooting something that has no gun.
Yeah.
Now, what's worse than that is, are you used to shooting under stress where someone's shooting at you? No, you're not. As a result, if you're not training to shoot someone shooting at you, you really can't. It's very difficult, very hard.
You can't manipulate that situation like it.
You can't change your brain. Your brain's like, oh my God, I have to get to safety.
Yeah.
I can't take out the threat.
Yeah. Self-preservation is going to kick in, and that's the
correct.
main
Self-preservation.
thing.
Correct. That's natural. To overcome that, in the military, we have something called UCMJ code, and we have a prison. So if you decided you don't want to fight today, you can find yourself in prison.
Yeah.
You find yourself wanting to go the wrong way towards warfare, you could also be shot in the head during a time of war. So let's be clear. Sometimes you need lots of training and motivation to overcome self-preservation. And still there's something called fratricide. And still there's something associated with fratricide and the fact that certain people don't want to be led by a college kid when they're 10 years older than that college kid in the military.
Yeah.
And so then some bad things have happened. And there's people in Leavenworth right now, and a lot more that need to be there because they call it a friendly fire. But in reality, it was, I don't trust this college kid to tell me what to do today. So bad things are about to happen.
Yeah.
And that's a reality of self-preservation in a situation where your brain is telling you, hey, we got to make a decision to survive here.
Yeah.
Now, to overcome that, you have discipline. In that discipline, like I was an airborne paratrooper. Give me jump out of airplanes, I've got to sign a contract, and I've got to be, it's got to be my MOS. I just don't jump out of airplanes for fun. That's not me. I don't. But in the military, I jumped out because that was what I agreed to do and to follow through with my duty, right?
What made you want to do that?
What's that?
What made you want to do that, to be a paratrooper?
What made me want to be a paratrooper was I was in junior ROTC in West Germany, and this old colonel came up to me from Georgia. He was really old in '87. So I graduated from high school in '87. He was old in '87. So that tells you he was like a World War I veteran or World War II or something. Anyway, he didn't like me. My mother was a captain, and there's some people with some old values in the military, especially down south, old values. And they didn't like the fact that there was an African-American female doctor that they had to salute when we come to the gate, because we have an officer sticker on our car. And this particular colonel had a serious problem with my leadership. And I could outperform the other people in drill and some other things that he was very upset about. And he just was, there was just general upset, feelings about the fact that my mother was an officer.
Yeah.
So basically showed me a picture one day, and he said, you know what that is? Look at that brown. You know what that is? He showed me his picture. I looked at the picture. I was like, it's a skinhead redneck with no neck. He was like, get up from the table right now. Get your ass in the office. He really hated me, right? Yeah. But I swear to you, this guy looks like a skinhead with a mohawk before there was a such thing. He had a mohawk before there were mohawks. He just looked like he likes to, I don't know, tackle bulls and tip cows and lynch certain people.
Yeah.
So he had that look, and he wanted me to know that when he was younger, uh, uh, he would teach me a lesson.
He was about that life. So.
Yes. And so, big long story short, man, he said, that's an airborne paratrooper. That's something you will never be. And I said, you know why I would never be that, sir? Because I would never be dumb enough to jump out of a perfectly good working aircraft. He said, get up right now and get your ass that office right now. And I was like, damn. So I went, a couple more years out of high school, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Just to spike that dude.
Yeah.
And I did. I made my jumps. I did it, but if I'm being honest, I did it because, that and you get a lot of attention in the military for having a beret at the time. Mm-hmm. So being airborne was a significant thing. For me, though, seriously, being airborne was a mental transformation. It was the first time that I had to depend on myself to make a decision to follow through with something that could kill me. And I had to put my training to work and believe in it with my life. Mm-hmm. And it did change me. I will say that jumping out of airplanes, becoming an airborne paratrooper is something that changed my life. It made me stop having fear of humans. I can't have fear anymore of people. Me personally, if the earth couldn't defeat me, if gravity couldn't defeat me, if I can overcome this, I can overcome anything.
Okay.
And that's what happened to me. So my rites of passage was graduate from airborne school, and that's what made me feel a sense of empowerment in such a way that made me feel unstoppable, that I could do anything. Mm-hmm. And I will say that I'm grateful for the airborne for that.
Okay.
So great.
I heard you mention.
But I'm not a daredevil.
I heard you mention. I believe it's Eclecticon in an interview. Can you explain what that is?
Eclecticon is a system I created, the core system. Eclectic meaning blended styles, and KAN is a Japanese suffix meaning system. I really like a lot of Japanese systems, a lot of Japanese philosophy, and so that's why I use the suffix KAN. Mm-hmm. It's a place of blended styles. Okay. And so that's why I blended together all the different weapons, which you won't see on the internet. I don't teach weapons on the internet. Okay. How to use knives, how to use baton. I teach like how not to use it, except for retention and for compliance. So I do teach, some compliance holds. Mm-hmm. I don't teach any of our firearms tactics. I don't teach any of our knife tactics or baton tactics to the general public online.
Why is that?
Come to class for that. What's that?
Why is that?
Because I don't want that in the wrong hands. It would be very devastating.
I understand.
A violent person could use this to cause great harm, and we don't want that.
So do you think that like a person could come into your training with those intentions, but still go through your training with those?
No, because we read people, we check their background, all kinds of things that we do to make sure we're training the right kinds of people.
Okay, so not everybody's allowed to go through.
No.
Okay.
No, you can't just play to play.
Yeah.
Because if we did that, it would be terrible. And I never had an instructor that cared when I was going through different training schools, and nobody ever cared about any of that. I do, because it's real for me. This is real. These are real lives. Mm-hmm. So this, we're not just a school. We actually physically go out and protect people. And if I train someone and they go out and hurts people inappropriately, that negatively affects me personally, and of course our reputation. So we take discipline very seriously in terms of behavior. We don't allow anyone disrespecting people, anyone. Mm-hmm. Like no one on my staff can disrespect people on the team or outside the team. We just don't tolerate that at all. So very structured in that way. No domestic violence. If somebody does some kind of domestic violence in our organization, they're out immediately. Yeah. Immediately. So there's no like working through it. The wife can't come in and cover and say he didn't mean to hit me. There's none of that. He's got to go. We can't have that. Okay. So, but they know that up front. So guys learn, hey, I can't beat women and be a part of this organization. I can't, mistreat people and be a part of this organization. It's just very, very structured that way.
Mm. Okay, but because you have like a non-violent approach, and obviously like the community and the thug animals, they're not going to have that same non-violent approach. So how do you feel like your non-violent approach combats a violent offender who's trying to do violence and harm, possibly take your life? How do you feel like non-violence and that mixes to where you're able to do your job effectively and then help the community without actually being violent?
Because once you understand how to manage human threat conditions, that's like if you told me, and I raised a lot of pit bulls, if you told me that a little guy named Caesar can go into a place with some pit bulls and the next thing you know, the pit bulls listen to him, I would not believe you.
Yeah.
I'm like, a pit bull? I have a bunch of pit bulls. There's no way you can walk in there and whisper and dog whisper, and next thing you know, the pit bull listens to you. As it possible?
Mm-hmm.
And Caesar, what's his name? What's the guy's name? The dog whisperer. He goes there every day. And just, and I mean, the meanest pit bull is like, okay, what do I do? I couldn't believe it. And so I guess I'm a thug whisperer. So, but no, seriously, what it is this, man. Once you understand the thought process of human beings, you understand how to create what you want. Mm-hmm. So if you don't want violence, there's a way to create that path, even with people that are psychotic, people that are violent. And even if it does get, from their perspective, violent, they do escalate. With proper training through our program, you learn how to be ahead of it so you can dominate them without injuring them. Mm-hmm. So you can take them down, take them into custody, and not hurt this person. So if you go online, you'll see one I just did. There was a professional golfing tour in Detroit, and one of the golfers has a mental problem. He's about 30 years old. One of the spectators goes crazy, starts calling me N-word, spits in my face, throws rocks, breaks windows at people's houses, and I take him into custody without hurting him, without beating him, without kicking his face in, without choking him out. And you can do that. I could choke him out. There's a lot of things I could have done to him legally and justifiably. But my objective was to not injure him. My objective was to get him into police custody. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. If you look at the video, you'll see that I talked to him. He actually gets up from the ground and says, "Can we have a hug?" So I give him a hug. And then when I get him in the hug, you may not notice this, but when I give him the hug, I elongate his arm. And then I put him into a standing arm bar across my chest, which he doesn't even know until it's too late. When he started trying to resist, he realized, like, oh, I'm locked. Mm-hmm. He's literally locked, and he had no idea. He thought he was hugging, and then he was going to be in position. He's probably thought he's going to run away from me. Yeah. Or sneak punch me and then run
attack
away.
On you, yeah.
Right. But he didn't understand that I know that I'm ahead of you. Yeah. And so we teach you how to understand biomechanics so you're ahead of the decision making. And so you know how to dominate that threat, whether they have a knife or a gun. So again, this is based on what we actually used. Mm-hmm. So the way to understand is to realize we did things differently, and now we do things this way. We went through a lot of shootings, a lot of stabbings. People try to stab us, shoot us, kill us, and we survived, all of us, right? So what we did, though, to do that was kept training and learning from our mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I taught against them the very next day. So it's constant training, evolution, and constant fighting, conflict with violent gangs. These aren't people trying to get away with something. These are attackers. Not like the golfer guy, who's just some golfing spectator with mental issues. Mm-hmm. These are actual violent criminals who kill people and are proud of it and like to kill people, like to hurt people. So those people coming out in groups to attack us and others is where we got a chance to see the training work. And so it's not just like we do a lot of mentals, and you don't have to, 9 times out of 10, even though they're mental and talking hostile, if you know how to talk to people, you can create a non-violent outcome by understanding how to bond with them, building a trust bond, and creating positive communication. So it's psychology first. So psychology, law, skill. That's the 3 pillars of our training system. Psychology, called tactical psychology. It's the tactics that are based on psychology that gives you the advantage. Understanding law tactics, legal tactical law. So tactics for legal self-defense. These are actually how you do it. These are not principles of law. I don't teach law. I teach tactics for law, right? So there's a difference. I don't teach what they teach in law school. I teach you how the police are going to write the report, how the citizens are going to view it, how the witnesses are going to view it, and then how the prosecutor and the judge and the jury can view it, and how you can make decisions that are in your best interest of your community, your corporation, your family, you as an individual. Before you pull a knife, a gun, before you punch someone, before you talk to someone, you would know how this legally is going to be played out and how it could be twisted, even if it's not true. So example is you have a problem with your neighbor. You have a problem with your ex-girlfriend, ex-husband, ex-wife. and you're at work, you're an ex-employer. Um, these are going to be different legal situations, and they're going to be interpreted differently based on who you are and who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just who punched who first, who threatened who first, who's at whose house, who's on private property, whose property is this, who owns this property, what do you look like? What do you look like?
Yeah.
We judge a book by its cover. That's why we say don't judge a book by its cover, but that we always do.
Yeah.
When
It's
police
just
get there, they
human
make
nature.
something called snap judgment. They're going to look at you, and the police officer is going to say, I like this person or I do not like this person. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to stick with that, because the person they like, meaning they first look at the person, that person looks nice to them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they find out that person's crazy. Now the police officer's against that person.
Yeah.
So, but if they first get there, they make a snap judgment looking at you and the other person, and they decide which one seems more believable before they even talk to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you talk to people, they can find out sometimes the person they thought was the good person is actually the bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay, but they start off the other way. So that's very important for you to remember, because if you have a look that you think people think is intimidating, then you need to know that up front. And for example, when police officers get to the scene, you don't start walking over to the cops. You raise your hand and talk to sir, man, speak with you, please.
Yeah.
And let them say, come over here. And that makes police officers at ease, so they don't respond to you in an aggressive way.
Mm-hmm.
They realize you're asking for permission, which you do not have to do, but you do not have respect for the police, which makes the officer say, okay, this is a respectful person, let me speak with him. Or he'll say, sir, stand by, I'll be with you in a minute. But he also knows that you have respect, which is why you ask permission to go talk to him. People make a mistake, they run up to cops real fast and think the cop's supposed to know they're a good person.
Mm-hmm.
The cop can't know you're a good person. They don't even know if you have a gun or not. They don't know if you're the bad guy. They don't know if you're actually the caller yet.
Yeah, they're already on high alert, and
right. They don't know.
There's
they
already
don't know,
big tension
right? So,
in any situation.
Right.
There's going to be tension,
because
there's always.
You don't know about anything. You're going there in a non-bulletproof car, and it could be bullets. You don't know.
Yeah, and everybody's objective is to make it home. So
right,
they want to make it home, you want to make it home. So
right. So we arm citizens with the ability to understand the psychology of police and vice versa, so that you can create conditions where criminals and police don't have problems, as well as regular people that aren't criminals don't indicate and create problems and incite a problem with police officers.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding how to articulate, you have your gun, you're in a situation, what do you do when police get on the scene? Well, if you had my training, you would immediately either put the gun away before you had contact with them, or put the gun down before they said anything to you. Before that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you end up getting killed like that kid, like the soldier on leave, whose father is a police chief, who went to the mall. There's an active shooter. He pulls out his gun, like everybody else in the mall, and he gets behind cover. The police come from behind and think he's the gunman and shoot him.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. That's not unusual. You know who does it more than cops? Regular citizens do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't call it that. They call it attempt murder, and they charge you, right? But in reality, you thought that was the bad guy because he shot 4 people. You didn't realize that guy with the gun that shot 4 people was shooting 4 people that were attacking him.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't look like that to you.
Yeah.
All you saw was a guy with a gun shooting 4 people. So now you take out your gun and shoot the good guy.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah. Do you believe that your training? My bad. I apologize.
Yeah.
Do you believe that your training is more efficient with police officers that police neighborhoods that they're familiar with? Because a lot of things misconception between police officers and the communities that they police, because there's no connection. Like they're just there to work. They don't really have a relationship with the community.
No.
So you don't.
No, not at all. Those are things. There's lots of misconceptions, and they're natural. All black people can dance, all Jews are rich, all white people have a good life, and a father. There's all these things that are not true, that we're all subjected to. All people of African heritage are somehow related. All people of European heritage are somehow related. We're all humans. We're all related to each other, but there's different ethnic groups, and they're very significantly different. And so you wouldn't say these people are the same just because of the way they look. But when you're talking about these police situations, this idea that somehow the behavior is related to skin color or related to where you're from is not just not true. It's completely the opposite in reality. So
you don't think officers sorry to cut you off. You don't think the officers would respond differently when they go to a more crime filled area than they would to a suburb area with less crime? You don't think that they would have a different response when they get there with the people of that community?
Yeah, that's classism. So the question is, when an officer goes to a wealthier looking place versus a poor looking place, does it affect their behavior? Absolutely, 100%. That has nothing to do with the officer though. That has to do with their perception of the place. So they so when you think about when you talk about uh, the thing that we all see on CNN, which is the white cop attacking the black person. Okay, that right there is completely misleading. Number one, the vast majority of people that are having contact with police officers, getting arrested by police officers, are European Americans, not African Americans, not in the urban communities. The vast majority. There's disproportionate African Americans being arrested or having police contact. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the majority. Okay, that's why the majority of prisons are filled with non-African American people or Afro-Europeans, people with no African heritage. The vast majority of people in prison are not of African heritage. So, except on TV and in people's minds who are watching TV and news. So what happens is we're being misled to believe a lot of things that, for example, gun violence. They'll say there's a gun violence problem in the cities. No, there isn't. Or my favorite new one is people need to arm themselves. African Americans need to arm themselves because they don't have guns. Really? Harriet Tubman had a gun. She had 2 guns. Harriet Tubman couldn't even own herself, and she had 2 guns. She couldn't legally be in charge of her, but she had 2 guns. There's never been a shortage of guns in the African American community. Never. So that's a fantasy. What there is a lack of course, is formal training, but that's in every community. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, when you talk about community protection by law enforcement, what you need are police officers that care. That's what you need. Police. It doesn't matter what their ethnic group is. You need police officers that care. But you can't get an officer to care about something he doesn't care about.
True. I mean, that's with anybody. True.
That's right.
Yeah.
With anybody. It's not because he's a police officer, because he's a person. Mm. People don't care about something because there's people, not because they're a police officer.
Yeah.
And so people are twisting it because the news media is playing a certain narrative. Mm-hmm. Now, if you do your own research, you're going to find none of your narratives match your impressions. Your impressions came from TV and movies. Mm-hmm. That's not real. It came from watching the news. That's not real. The news didn't even give you the whole story. They said the day was senseless violence. Look at this gas station shooting. They didn't even take the story. They didn't even talk to anyone. They didn't even interview anyone. Think about that. How do you have a shooting, didn't interview a single person, and you have a story about it? And that's when this one shot that one, and bullets were flying, and people got shot. And that's the story. Mm-hmm. That's the whole story. You didn't interview anyone. There's witnesses. All people running around, go talk to them. Yeah. But see, that's when you're going to get this other story. This guy raped his sister, so he went after him at the gas station. First tried to get him prosecuted, that didn't happen, so they shot up his house. They shot the wrong house, they shot this other guy. It's a lot to it. Yeah. But then when you find out, if you actually listen to the story, you find out that a lot of the stories are based upon people trying to seek justice because no one's providing it for them. Okay. So what we do is educate people on these things that I found out over the past 26 years. I did not know these things either. Mm-hmm. Okay. I really believe what I was hearing on the news. So do your own research. Don't believe anything you see on the news. Don't believe anything. Believe that that's something you should be looking into. So what you use it for, when you see a news story, no matter what it is, go do more research. And just remember that what people are doing is they're building, it's called recency bias. So you keep seeing the white officer having a problem with the black civilian, right? What's happening then is you believe that's always happening. Mm-hmm. Okay? But the reality is that's not always happening. That's literally not always happening at all. In fact, there's obviously, let's use a round number of thousands of people are in jail right now for being a felon in possession of a gun. How'd they get to prison if they're getting shot and killed? They're getting shot. They're not getting shot and killed. They give up their gun. The police officer takes them to jail. It's over. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that's not what you're seeing on CNN. You're seeing, this 1% situation. 1,000 people got arrested. One person got shot.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about, the one person, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fine, but you do need to keep it in perspective. And yes, it's still wrong. Let's say that shooting is wrong. Yes, that shooting is wrong. But let's really keep it in perspective because you don't want to get it twisted and believing something that's just not true. So these fantasies, man, are very detrimental to people that carry guns or don't carry guns. It doesn't matter. But your thought process, your ideas, right? So, for example, if someone tells you to drop the gun, right? Your brain has to process that. Whether it's a police officer, security guard, homeowner, you have your gun and they think you're a criminal, they say, drop the gun. You can't just drop the gun. It's not going to happen. You have to, your brain has to say, okay, I trust this person. I'm going to drop the gun. I'm a good person. They must think I'm a criminal. So let me put the gun down. Meanwhile, the hesitation either causes them to shoot you or arrest you for endangering the lives of the responding officers. Okay, that can happen to you.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand human response time, you don't understand how the brain processes information, you're going to shoot people inappropriately or you're going to get shot. And that's why we teach a lot about the science of the brain and human response time neurologically. Because if you don't understand that, you're going to shoot people before you have a chance to even process the situation, discern whether they're the bad guy or not. So that's why when you go to the range, instead of focusing on shooting accurately at distances that are outside the scope of self-defense,
yeah,
you might want to look into that. Your Honor, I felt threat at 30 feet. Really?
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. Like, there's no need to have your handgun and shoot, 25.
It's going to be really hard for you to prove self-defense at 30 feet.
Yeah,
25
absolutely.
feet. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be hard, man. I mean, you need to really look into that. And most conflicts take place where? Right here, within arm's reach. It's really close to you when there's a problem, 9 times out of 10. So that's the other thing that, practicing realistically. And then understand the bullets, when they enter the body, aren't stopping the person. They're still animated. If they were aggressing on you, the bullets are putting holes in them, which is leading to hypovolemic shock. Could be some mental shock, possibly. But if they're really intent on killing you, stabbing you, shooting you, whatever they're doing, they're not going to stop because you put a hole in them 9 times out of 10. You're going to have to keep going. They're going to keep going. So survival requires a thought process that even if you are engaged in that force-on-force conflict in close quarters, you're going to have to continue on. And that's where our training comes in. How do you dominate that threat? If you got stabbed, if you got shot, what do you do now? Well, you don't want to get shot and stabbed again. So what you don't do is back away, try to go get your gun out, run for cover, get more bullets in you. You got to go for it and dominate that threat. And part of it that makes you survive is the fact that you are shocking the person with the gun because you're going at them. And they expect you to run. So there's police officers that are online that swear by our training. Our law enforcement training section has a police officer that was he's retired from Detroit Police Department. He was also a pro cage fighter. He's only pro fighter in the Detroit Police Department that's known. And for the past 15 years of his police duties, he was the defensive tactics instructor at the academy full time. And he's been training here for 3 years, and now he's the lead instructor of our program. And our program specifically shows officers how to dominate threats. But if you go online, you can see police officers in our Enforcer Tech program. If you Google Threat Management Center Enforcer Tech program, you'll see police officers say the training saved their lives. One officer was talking about he was actually off duty, and a person put a gun to the back of his skull, and then he disarmed him. I think it was first he came to the front, to the back, and then he turned around and disarmed the guy, took his gun, and took him to custody without shooting him. Then you'll see some other ones on there. One is a lieutenant now. He took a lady into custody, taking a baton from her like a bat. And normally he wouldn't have done that. He would have escalated a different way, and legally done so. But in this case, he used the technique that I taught him, and when he was a sergeant, and now he's a lieutenant, and he swears by it as well. So you got lots of law enforcement officers that use the actual tactics in force-on-force conflict and came out in a much greater state than they would have normally. And that's what we're proud of, that we can share this information we learned. And we train police officers, sworn police officers, for free. We don't ask money from them. That's because when the police officers were out here and we're in situations, they helped us out a great deal. And we help them as well, because public safety is about protecting the people from predation. And I don't care about profiting off a police officer who I expect to go out and protect families, my family included, and I don't need their money. What I need them to do is have skills so they don't get killed, don't kill the wrong person, don't get injured, don't injure the wrong person. So any law enforcement officer that we can get that information to, we're glad to do that. For the past 26 years, we've been training officers, and we're very proud that they go out and come back with great stories of how they use the training. So that to me is the reward. That's the payment for me. I don't need officers' payment. Individual officers, we need to give officers more money for more training. So my plan is right now to get officers $50 an hour to train them. So I'm looking for ways to pay them to train, because the more skills that officers have that emphasize non-injury, non-adversarial interaction, non-violent outcomes, and makes it so officers can take people into custody easier without injuring the subject, that makes it better for the officer, it makes it better for the public. So they need to be paid for better, higher level of outcome. We need to give them bonuses. That bonus is us as people. When police officers have better training, we have better outcomes for the public. So everybody survives better. And
you ever had
sorry,
you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the idea that the skin color of the officer matters, I promise you it does not. I wish it did. Because it sounds logical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It absolutely does not. You have good officers and you have bad officers, and there's really good officers that look nothing like you, no matter who you are, and they're just straight up professional people, and they will do the right thing no matter what. And then you have other officers look just like you and hate you.
Yeah.
Literally hate you. Hate the ground you walk on. and will try to destroy you no matter who you are.
Yeah.
They hate you. Okay? You know why? Because they're people. They're people. And they and we need to look at them as people and protect them the same way we want our families protected. Remember, they are our family. Police officers have family. A lot of people have police in their family. I have police officers in my family as well. So you want them to be safe. In order for that to happen, you've got to create safety for them. And if they're not safe, we're not safe. The public is not safe.
Yeah.
So we have to make safety for both. And that means we have to be real. And what's real is that skin color has never been a way of linking people for any people. So the first thing we have to do as society, whether we have a gun or not, is remember that skin color did not protect anyone ever in any society, nor did it ever determine any person's actual group.
Have you ever gotten any pushback from police officers who felt that maybe you were overstepping your boundaries and kind of trying to do their job? You ever got any pushback?
In the 90s, we had pushback.
Yeah.
But what happened in the 90s was we were new. So they didn't know. And so as they found out, they started training with us. They started working with us. And then, of course, they saw us helping them in situations. So we were dealing with gangs. So quite often the officers would be outnumbered anyway.
Yeah.
So they were very appreciative that we were there and that we would never back down ever from gangs under any conditions, no matter how outnumbered we were. So we always dominated. So it could be 20, 30 of them, 40, 60 of them. In Southwest Detroit, the Mexican gangs would travel 60 to 80 deep. And we have to go force on force conflict with them. And if you train for it all the time, though, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's not traumatizing, but we train for it every day. So back in those days, we were doing a lot of nightclubs. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, you train every day. And so as a result, imagine training every day for football, and now you get to go to the game.
Yeah.
You're excited. You want to play. You want to use your play, right? So, but if you didn't practice, you're stressed about just being in the game. You don't want to get embarrassed, tired, out of shape, right? So, it is what it is, man. So we backed a lot of officers in a lot of situations that were really serious. So they were outnumbered, and we were able to give them the backup they needed in order to, say, effect an arrest on a person that was inappropriate, violent, whatever it was. And there's many situations. So, and they backed us as well. So let's be clear. Police officers were very supportive of us in many altercations, many. So the way they wrote the report was very positive, very professional, and definitely an asset to the situation. So remember, what matters is how things are interpreted, not how you feel about them. It's how the police write the report. It's how the prosecutor looks at the report. It's how detectives look at the report. It's how, that's what determines things. So creating positive interactions, being positive with police officers is very important under all conditions. Never argue with police under any conditions. There's nothing to argue about. If you don't agree with the police officers, be quiet and ask for a lawyer. Do not argue. The arguing does not help.
Not at all. Not at all.
It can actually, make things much, much worse.
Yeah.
So no matter what this is, even if the officer's wrong and is arresting you wrongfully,
You're
right?
not going to win in that situation. And that
Well,
at that
right. And
time,
what
you're not
happens,
going
you
to
actually
win
make
right
it
there.
worse. So if they're wrong and
Yeah.
arresting you, right, and they find out later they're wrong, they can actually just kick it
Mm-hmm.
and just get you out of there and be done with it, right? Happens all the time.
Yeah.
But if you overreacted and created some other problems like some injuries, fighting, threatening lawsuits, all kinds of things, while in custody wrongfully, because you were agitated, that actually makes them have to go a different route.
Yeah.
And so de-escalation of yourself, even when the police officers are wrong, is very important. They might just thought you were someone else. They thought your vehicle was someone else. All that'll be worked out. So it's best for you to stay calm and not argue with police on the side of the road. It'll fix itself. You'll be able to fix it later. But you can't fix it though if you escalated it.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be able to fix it, and you'll exacerbate it, and that's a problem. So you want to be positive with police, positive with people in general, and then that's my main thing in that I want to convey, especially with dealing with firearms. It's best never to have a firearm in your hands, and if you can, put it away before police arrive and indicate you have the permit and you're wherever you're at,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the situation is, and then do not don't have your firearm on you when the police comes to the contact in a situation when they came to a situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's very helpful, and because what happens is if you have the gun on you at the time, that creates quite often problems.
Yeah. Are your officers, do they carry lethal and non-lethal weapons?
We
or
carry all non-lethals.
Non-lethals?
All non-lethals.
Okay. So you don't carry any lethal weapons at all?
No, all non-lethals.
Okay. All right.
We transition.
All right. Last question, and then I'm gonna let you go. A lot of people may think that your training is unrealistic or that it's fake. What do you have to say to them and about that? Anything?
Yes. So a lot of people that, let's say, for example, we have a few thousand dislikes on our YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and we have hundreds of thousands of likes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't please everybody.
Absolutely.
But let's be clear about this. The difference between our training and any other training is we use it in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So we put our boots on the ground and physically protected people with our skills. So when you talk to these people that are saying that they think it's fake, remember, these are people that don't put themselves at risk. They don't go out on the street. They don't put their hands on violent people. We do, and always have. So the core difference between the people that are saying it's fake is that they, in fact, are not real. Mm-hmm. They will not do it. They're not going to go out to any hood in Brazil or the United States and put themselves at risk for any poor people or rich people, unless the rich people are in a safe situation.
Yeah.
They're not going to go out. We protect regular poor people, regular people with no money for free. Domestic violence victims, stalking victims, crime witnesses, people want to kill because they have to go to court, because they have to go to court to testify, and they're not even related to the situation. So we make sure they get to court safely, and we volunteer to do that. For 26 years, no one that we protect has been murdered. No one.
Okay.
No home invasions, no murders of the people we protect. So think about that, man. If you think about those people, remember, we're the people that train, then go out to the street and respond quickly to all violent calls. And we successfully manage them in real life with our skills. And these other people are going into a place, taking their shoes off, tapping on each other and rubbing on each other. And they're not going to leave the boots on and go on the street and put themselves at risk. They're not going to get shot at and stabbed and all these things. That's what we do. And that's our life. And that's okay. I don't teach sport, and they don't teach survival.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't teach sport because I don't do sports.
Yeah.
I don't know how to understand law. I don't understand how to use rules. I understand rules for my conduct. When you're touching me, striking me, or threatening me, I don't understand how to obey rules.
Yeah.
I understand how to obey laws. I also understand how the law works. Now, they don't understand the law. So they'd be really good at choking someone on a mat or boxing someone or kicking and boxing someone. That has nothing to do with legally defending yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Many great fighters, not just dead because they didn't understand the difference, but they're also in prison. And they're really good fighters. They're great fighters. In fact, if you take the person who killed them and put them in the ring or on the mat with the person or in the cage with the person that they killed, they would lose every time.
Yeah.
But the fighters, and you can go online and look it up, Lots of these fighters are dead now because they came across life-threatening situations that we deal with all the time.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's normal. For them, this is very unsettling to know that there's knives, guns, multiple aggressors that attack you at the same time. For us, that's normal. Being attacked by multiple aggressors and having knives and guns, that is America. Welcome to the United States of America. Guns, knives, and multiple aggressors, that's what you should expect in a conflict here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and one more thing, lying. This is not a fair fight country. We don't fight fair in this country. And understand this, when you're done defending yourself, the police are coming.
Is there such thing as a fair fight?
What's that?
Is there such thing as a fair fight?
No, exactly. These guys act like there is. Like, I'm going to be able to go grapple with you with my shoes off on the concrete when someone tries to do something to kill someone.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
That's
not real. That's not a survival scenario. That's two people agreeing to be in fight or something, right?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, in Michigan is against the law to agree to be in conflict with another person. It's called equal combatant. So if you don't understand that law, you're guilty of a misdemeanor. If you win the fist fight, it's highly likely, especially if the police get there and you're choking them, that's going to be a felony. So understanding law is just as important as understanding the actual abilities you have to defend yourself. And if you don't understand how to legally defend yourself, you're self-destructive. You're causing yourself and your family a great deal of harm. And that's where we come in. We teach people how to survive, how to understand psychology, law, and skill in that order so they can deter, detect, and defend themselves from violent criminals effectively. And what that means essentially is what you're doing is you're decreasing the likelihood of you being killed and injured and losing your money and your freedom all at the same time through our training system. That's been proven through force-on-force conflict with actual violent criminals with intent to kill people, not people trying to get away from us for, stealing something or something. We don't chase people for stealing or anything like that. We don't chase people. People we're talking about we have conflict with, we're not chasing. They're attacking.
Chasing child support,
Yeah, right. People. So you got child support for $10,000. We're gonna put you in prison, spend $100,000 on your child, on you being in prison.
Yeah.
We're gonna spend 100 G's to put you in prison because you owe $10,000 in child support. That's just crazy to me. Or how about no seatbelt? Or how about you park too far from the side of the street, or you have loud music, or that's none of our business. We care about one thing: stopping rape, robbery, murder. That's all we focus on. If we can be helpful if someone not stealing someone's car, that's fine too. So I, stop people stealing cars by saying, "Hey, stop it!" Yell at them. I'm not gonna fight and kill people over cars.
Yeah.
It's not happening. Cars are insured. We care about life over everything, life over law. We care more about people preserving people's lives than using a law to dictate our actions. So we're trying to create conditions for peace, and through peace, you can create a prosperous environment. And that means you don't have violence. If you don't have violence, you have no property value that's been reduced because someone got killed on the property legally, but it still reduces property value.
Yeah.
Okay. It actually depreciates the value of your community if you have murders or shootings and shootouts and all kinds of crimes, even if they caught the criminals.
Yeah.
So let's say there was a rape, robbery, murder on your block. A rape would run a house, a murder the next one, a home invasion the other one, and everybody got caught. That destroys the value of your community. You now have three things happen. Number one, a crime. Number two, victimization. And number three, property value has descended as a result.
Yeah.
So what we do is create conditions where you don't rape, rob, and murder people, and therefore everyone prospers, even the criminals. The criminals stay out of our area because they know there's no real way to get in and get out. So our families are safe. And we do that by being proactive and preventive. And we don't violate their rights. So when we come up to them and talk to them, we keep it positive. So they can have a hoodie on, a mask on, 3 o'clock in the morning, and all we do is greet them and let them know that they get free bodyguard services in this community.
Yeah, is there certain areas that you do patrol and certain areas that you don't, or are you all over Metro Detroit?
Are hired specifically by homeowner associations, the security guard firm connected with us, and then there are upscale communities, extremely wealthy, extremely ridiculously wealthy, which for some people don't understand this. When you're in an urban community and you have extreme wealth, you're in extreme danger.
Yeah.
Criminals dream of coming to where you live all day, every day, because you're right around the corner. You're literally around the corner in a 10,000, 20,000 square foot house, and they live in a house that's 1,000 square feet. It's not well.
Yeah.
Right. And they're a criminal. So most people in their block are not criminals. They're just people that live, check to check and have a rough life. But they're not criminals. But guess what? There are criminals on that block, and they will come over to the wealthy if they could.
Yeah.
We're the people that stop that from happening. And we do it without violating their rights, without creating a hostile environment. So you don't have to be disrespectful to people. You don't have to talk down to people. You can be very respectful and create a condition. I've told guys, that we don't want them to get blamed for crimes. So think about, maybe walking around the community if you don't want to walk through the community. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But you may want to walk on the outside of the community, because if you're walking through here and you're on parole, which one guy told me, "Hey man, I'm on parole. I'm not going to do nothing." I said, "Oh, I'm not saying you are, but these people call and you have police contact. That might be bad for your parole."
Yeah.
So you might want to consider that when you're walking through here at 3:00 in the morning. They might think it's odd. A guy on parole just has to be walking through his neighborhood right now at 3 in the morning. They might. I don't mind. I got your back. I'll make sure nobody robs you. I'll be right behind you anyway. So as a result, we don't have crime. We literally go to crimemapping.com and see our communities don't have crime. But there is, we have a community that's the what they call at risk. It's 21 buildings, and half of them are unoccupied. And this is a place called Palmer Park, which is a very rough area. It's just it's a place where there's lots of opportunity to commit crimes. Let's put it that way. And then we work in a place called Palmer Woods, and Palmer Woods is extremely high-end, the premier neighborhood in Detroit, and we keep it safe. Both of them. We just got hired at the one that was considered a dystopia, terrible place, and we're keeping the families there safe. Now their occupancy is going up, and making sure that violence is not happening to the families there. And so we work with the police department as well. The police department coordinates with us very well. So we're nowadays it's extremely positive interactions, and they're very supportive of us, and we're supportive of them. So that's really positive. That's been a positive evolution over the past 20 years. The first 6 years was rough, but after that, after we established that, hey, we're on the same team to make it safe for the families, they were on board. So now the command structure, the command officers are now officers that were familiar with us when they were on street officers back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So they have a lot of respect for us. So we have a lot of really positive connection with the command structure here in Detroit.
Okay. Any plans on expanding outside of Detroit?
Absolutely. We're expanding. We have plans to expand many places. We would already be much further ahead if the pandemic was not here. Yeah. Obviously, it's put a little hindrance on our growth plan, but we are growing now. We're getting more students now. We have people from around the world that saw us on Viceland, that saw us on Vice TV. HBO did a documentary on us. Some people saw us on CNN, Russian TV. There's been a lot of international coverage over the years. And people in other countries have been asking us to come over to their country to set up to get a school there and train people. So we're really excited about growing. We're looking for people that want to help us grow. In communities here in America, we need these threat management centers, these Detroit Urban Survival Training Centers, DUS, Detroit Urban Survival Training Centers, specifically to help create a connection, a positive connection between the police and the people. They're both training together in the same location for the same purpose, and that is safety, non-violent safety. So we show you how to escape, control, or immobilize threat within 3 moves or less. We show you how to do gun disarms, knife disarms. We show you the things that you will need to know to protect yourself and your family, and also how to get along with police officers. Simultaneously, we're teaching police officers tactics that put them ahead of violent predator behavior and how to read that behavior. So one thing I want to leave you with is this. It's called threat discernment. Whenever you look at a situation, you need to look at it from different perspectives. So for example, if I said to you, if you saw a woman being held against the wall by her throat, okay, just imagine that. A man is holding one by her throat against the wall. What is a positive, neutral, and negative reason for that happening? What's the first thing? What's the positive reason?
The positive reason, I guess, could be he was defending himself. Okay,
that's fine. It's self-defense. Good. What's a neutral reason? I mean, it's not positive or negative. It's really nothing.
It's just a disagreement.
Okay, that would still be illegal. That would be negative. What's a neutral? It's not negative. It's not illegal. Guy is holding a woman by her throat against the wall, but it's not bad or good.
Is there a neutral in that situation?
Yeah, it could be. They're in a play together. She's showing him self-defense. She's a self-defense instructor. Or he's a self-defense instructor. He's showing her how to get out of it.
Okay.
It's just, it's not necessarily bad or good. It's just, they're. She says, "Can you feel my neck? My lymph nodes are swollen or something." Right? But to you, it doesn't look like that. It looks like guys holding her
Yeah.
by her throat. She's like, ah, ah. Right?
Okay. I got you.
Okay. And the reason I say that is because this is resulting. This lack of training is resulting in police officers being attacked, and police officers attacking people that aren't doing something illegal, but it appeared to be.
Yeah.
Why would a guy be sitting by his car with a gun? Because he's changing the tire, but the officer didn't realize that. So when the officer ran up to him in plain clothes with his gun out, the criminal, who was actually not a criminal, was changing his tire, sees a guy coming at him with his gun. He's a licensed gun owner. He pulls his gun out and starts trying to shoot the cop who didn't know he's a cop. He thought it was some crazy guy running up to him.
Yeah.
This is happening every day. That's what happens more than some criminal comes up to you and you have to shoot him. That does not happen. That's extremely rare. What really happens every day is misunderstandings.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because we do not understand how to discern threat, especially when we go to the range and we start shooting for time. So you never want to shoot for time. You want to shoot for discernment. You want to get your brain trained to actually identify when it's supposed to shoot and when it's not. You have to train your brain neurologically to do that. You have to subconsciously train it. Otherwise, you'll get muscle memory and you'll practice drawing and firing. And what will happen is, under stress and duress, something will happen. You'll draw and fire, and then realize, oh my God, I didn't know it was a police officer. I didn't know it was my neighbor. I didn't know it was my kid. I forgot I had relatives from out of town, and I went downstairs and they popped up. That kind of stuff happens every day. And two people having road rage and having shootouts all day long.
Yeah.
Because you're having a heightened sense of fear. You're in your vehicle and comfort. So you feel comfortable with your car, you got your gun, and then this person threatening you and your family, or so you believe, and next thing you know, you're both having a shootout. That happens because neither one of them are thinking positive, neutral, negative. The reason they ran you off the road is because what? They didn't see you. It's possible they didn't see you, right? Yep. Or they're speeding right now because they're trying to get to the hospital because their kid is dying in the hospital. Their mother's dying in the hospital. They're erratic because they're trying to get to the hospital right now.
Yeah.
You have to think positive, neutral, negative. The reason why that lady's not looking at you and driving, she's having a seizure right now. She's not even aware of what's going on. Mm-hmm. She's having a medical emergency, right? The reason why her head is rolling, her eyes are rolling, and the guy's eyes are rolling in the back of their head is not because they're high or drunk. It's because they're having a medical emergency right now. But what do we usually think? Something negative, and we take a negative response.
Absolutely.
And you don't sit there and go to court and go, it turns out we did a test, we found out they were having a seizure, so, this is a misunderstanding. That's not how that goes. Yeah. They just go on with the court case. And my point is this. We need to have a greater understanding of human behavior, whether we're police or just the public, in order to create a better, more cohesive, safer society for everyone. And the first way we do that is to stop having fear. Stop using fear to dictate courses of action. And remember that gun access is vital, but Secret Service has the best guns in the world, and they do not use them. They take guns from people. They've taken multiple guns from multiple aggressors. Secret Service tackled the shooter of Reagan. They tackled a woman who was coming to shoot President Ford. They disarmed her and tackled her. And there's been others. So the concept of the gun is going to be how you save yourself, especially in an urban community with multiple with multiple people around. The field of fire is not being clear. It's highly unlikely. Yeah. And remember, you're responsible for your bullets. So if you over-penetrate, if you ricochet, if you have not a good understanding of lead and lag, where'd you get your lead and lag training? Under stress, duress, where someone's shooting at you. Lead and lag, you gotta be shooting at unarmed people, so you're shooting at someone who has a gun. Yeah. And you don't understand lead and lag. That's why those guys doing drive-bys shoot the wrong house. They don't understand lead and lag. Yeah. I'm not gonna teach them that, but they need some training. They always shoot the wrong house, right? Yeah. They don't mean to. They wish they'd go back and say, "Sorry, I was trying to shoot the guy that made me mad or something."
Yeah. Oops, my bad.
Whatever it was. Right. You can't say it's my bad. Yeah. Now the other people they shot, they're mad, and they're coming to shoot people too. So, bottom line is, if we create a better way to focus on the not using violence and force, not using violent force, not using fatal force, even though we can legally, what we can do is we can stop the escalation overall in our society that creates more righteous killing. because the more we believe it's righteous to kill, the more we find ways to kill and think it's right. In reality, it's not. We have to believe that we're not supposed to be killing other people. You have to believe that it's best to preserve life. And as long as you start believing that, you'll find a way to preserve life under all conditions. And when you can't, you exhausted your opportunities. So therefore, you had to use this, fatal force. But if you started off thinking fatal force might be something good to use right now, you will find a way to use it. You have to honestly approach each situation with, I'm not gonna want to shoot somebody. Absolutely not. That's the way you got to start. Otherwise, your brain's gonna slip into, I can't see his hands. He's not listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on here. I think he's gonna do something. I think he's got a furtive movement. Is that a furtive movement?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I got to shoot him, right?
Yep.
And then turns out later he just was, itching his knee, or he's a mental patient and he's acting like he has a gun or whatever. There's 1,000 variables.
Mm-hmm.
It's just highly unlikely that it's actually a high level threat requiring you to shoot them. That's extremely rare, right? But we can make it feel like it's not rare by simply focusing on how to use force and violence.
Gotcha.
So,
Well,
hopefully people understand that you need to look at a positive, neutral, negative. Whenever you see something, this is the point. If you see some guy with a gun in your backyard, remember that could be a cop that's doing his job, that's actually looking for a criminal in your backyard. So shooting out the back is not going to be your best. How about pointing a gun at the cop in your backyard who just chased a criminal is not in your best interest.
Yeah.
Okay, remember, it could be your neighbor. Your neighbor's coming out to check to see if there's a criminal in the backyard with his gun. And all you see is a silhouette, an outline, black outline of your neighbor. And you say, oh, guy's got a gun. You didn't know it was your neighbor. That's what's really happening a lot, man. So we really need to focus on, take every avenue to call 911. Don't go outside. Don't create conditions for conflict. Don't look for a way to validate the use of your firearm. Look for a way to invalidate the use, right? Yeah. Oh, I see a gun, but he's not shooting, so I don't need to shoot the guy yet. I can talk to him, right? When you do that, that's when you find out, oh my God, it is an undercover cop. Oh, it is a police officer in plain clothes. It is a police officer in uniform. It's just the angle was that I didn't even see it was a uniform. That actually happens all the time. I didn't know it was my neighbor. I didn't know it was my, my friend coming over, and I didn't see, his gun, and I saw the gun and overreacted. That actually happens all the time. Yeah. So, I'm glad you reached out to us, because, I look forward to sharing this information, especially with people in the gun community, because the more we get people in the gun community to manage fear appropriately, the less likely are to use their gun, except when they need to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's not a situation where you need to. I'm saying it's just extremely rare. And we can make it more common by simply having a thought process that says, hey, I think I should consider using my gun. Once we start believing that the gun is the solution, it will become the solution. And then a lot of lives, a lot of people's lives get ruined. And if you actually talk to people that went to prison, they would say, I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to do this. And it got misunderstood. And by the time we got to court, it was just assault, felony assault, attempt murder. It wasn't like, accidental attempt murder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's what my point is. We can stop a lot of the accidental shootings that are happening, a lot of accidental escalations by simply thinking of things from a positive viewpoint, a neutral, and a negative last.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Anything that you want to say before we get up out of here?
Yeah, please feel free to contact us. Go to YouTube and go to our YouTube, Detroit Urban Survival Training, Detroit Threat Management Center.
That's two different YouTube channels, right? You have two different ones.
Detroit Threat Management Center is the one to go to for YouTube.
Okay.
And our website is our Instagram is Detroit _dust. That's our Instagram.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so, go there, and we're getting more and more followers. We're blowing up. It's going great, man. I can't believe the great responses we're getting, and it's amazing to see so many people positively responding. A lot of serious martial artists are responding in very positive ways. A lot of sports people, then not so much, because they're more into sports.
Yeah.
But a lot of these serious martial arts people, a lot of serious firearms people, they support our training because they realize that it's based on reality, and it will help, and it has helped. So people are alive right now because of our training. We've saved many lives. None of our team members are dead. None of the people we protected are dead. No court dates. 26 years. We're very, very proud of our actual outcomes. So some people, they put a lot of emphasis on criteria and accreditations, and they use credentials as a form of credibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
With no outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. So you can do that if you want. That's normal, but that's not the best way to do it. What you want to do is you want to say to yourself, what has this person who wants to teach, what have they done? What did they do with their training? That's what matters.
Yeah.
So I want to learn. If I want to learn from someone, I want to learn from someone who did it, not from someone who didn't do things.
Absolutely.
Right. So we encourage people to come on. We have people flying in from other cities, states, and countries to come train with us over the weekend, take the training back to their communities. Because essentially everyone wants to know how to keep themselves safe, their family safe, the community safe. And we love teaching people by showing them how we do it, boots on the ground. We take you out with us into the communities. You go out, you learn how to do it, and you take it back to your community. The actual tactics that we use are how we're able to survive and make it so other people can survive. So we're proud of that, but we have a track record that works, which shows the training works, the philosophy is real. And so that's what you want to do. You want to look at who's talking to you, who's criticizing someone, who's doing something, and then ask them, what did you do that makes you credible to teach something, right? Because I can't teach sports because I don't do sports.
Yeah.
Right? I can't tell you how to win a sporting competition, get a trophy, or how you're going to get your next belt in different colors or something. But what I can tell you is how to survive violent predators. What I can teach you is how to create conditions for you not to be a victim of violent criminals, and how you can overcome them, how you can identify them first, and how you can understand the law, but understand psychology, read their body language, and then have the skills to dominate that threat. That's what I teach, because that's what I do, and that's what my staff members have had to do. So we're very proud that we have a track record of actual survival in real life to teach from. And that's what I would like to impart upon your viewers, that there is solutions. It's real. Come, check us out. Come by our school if you ever have time. Demo's free, so you can call in, sign the waiver, come by, and we'll show you the tactics in real life so you can actually see it and feel it for yourself. So it's something we do 24/7, man. For us, it's our life. It's not we don't do. There's no competitions. There's no trophies. It's just all pure tactics. So the time you come in, the time you leave, our students are learning how to survive. They want to learn, more athletic things. They should go to a gym. This is not a gym. This is a training center. Here, you don't learn things that you need to know how to survive: psychology, law, skill, escape, control, immobilize. Not how to fight and win points and score or something. So this is about survival, and we teach survival, not sport. So thank you for this opportunity to share with your viewers.
Oh no, I appreciate you again. I respect and appreciate what you do, and definitely a big help. And it seems like you're doing big things in the community. And like I said, I hope you definitely get the expansion going and start going to other places. And because I think it's a really dope thing that you're doing, and I think that it's really effective. I definitely do.
Thank you.
And
yes, we look forward to growing. So please keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Dale Brown, Detroit Threat Management Center. If you're not following them on YouTube, Instagram, anything, make sure that you do that right now and leave positive comments and talk to him and check him out for real. Appreciate you again, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.